Hey guys, just before we get into the video, I want to do a quick disclaimer. If you've been following me on the community posts on YouTube, then you probably already know what I'm about to say. But for those of you who've missed it, I had recorded this a couple of days ago and had actually edited it and was going to render it, but I clumsily deleted the wrong file. My recording file and another file were right next to each other, and I clicked on the wrong one to delete, and it was deleted forever from my computer without any way of getting it back. So all that was gone, unfortunately. So now I'm re-recording this. So I apologize that my reactions are not going to be what they would have been when I played it blind, but we want to keep things consistent here, so I am re-recording this now. But I just want to apologize to you guys in advance. And yeah, what can you do? Let's get into this. There's some cute moments ahead, so I don't mind replaying it and seeing it again. And of course, you get a little bit of a preview. I was gonna say spoiler. It's not really a spoiler. It's a preview of what's to come. Some cute things are on your horizons. All right. Ryouma motioned with his chin toward the clearing from which we came, and we scaled back up the hill.
All right. We'll settle here.
We can make it work. The hill afforded us a vantage point overlooking the Sekisho without fear of immediate detection. For now, I could rest easily, knowing that the bulk of the Furies were down there, which meant their ravenous, watchful eyes were not upon us. Ryouma?
Yes.
Considering our circumstances, it might have been premature to ask him this question, but what do you plan on doing once you find Nakaoka?
Isn't it obvious? I plan on convincing him not to involve the Furies in this godforsaken war. Also, I'll tell him not to associate with those Imperial bastards any longer. History is written by the victors, and you can't be a victor if you didn't live to tell the tale.
I held my breath as Ryouma shared his answer with me. That message hadn't applied to Nakaoka alone. My chest tightened, realizing that Ryouma had exempted himself too as a victor. What road laid ahead for Sakamoto, I wondered, once the threat of Nakaoka and his Furies had ceased. His disdain toward the water of life, and the subsequent abuse of its properties, was something he wasn't afraid to express.
Chizuru, something wrong. You're staring.
Oh, nothing! As Ryouma interrupted my stupor, my eyelids fluttered to appear engaged. Do you think Nakaoka would hear you out? Their last encounter was hostile, the shattering of a friendship between two lifelong friends. Nakaoka had even gone insofar as to threaten Ryouma with death by mutilation. Thus, the thought of Nakaoka entertaining Ryouma's proposition was suspect, if not dubious, and it made me anxious.
While if push comes to shove, then I'm not afraid of risking my life for it. Especially since technically I'm already dead.
What? His curt deliverance twisted my stomach into knots. Please don't joke about that. You were saved. You're here.
Who says I'm joking? Guess it came out roughly.
A brief silence floated awkwardly between us until Ryouma offered me a question.
How about you? What are you gonna do when you see Kodo? He looks a hell of a lot more stubborn. A real numbskull, if you ask me.
Well... Oh yeah, at that point I'm like, oh, did we actually see Dad in the first part of Ryouma's route? I think we did at that temple. And I had forgotten about that. Yes, suddenly I found myself replaying our last interaction at the Fushimi Inari temple. Father was attempting to trick me into joining him, as if I would be coaxed by his beliefs. Was Father no longer the man I once knew? Would I find that, like Nakaoka, he had fallen into a place where I couldn't reach him? If that's the case... And then we have some similar-ish options to do. I chose the bottom one, I think, because I'm like, well, you can only do whatever you can do. Don't go crazy. But she has to try, right? So I was like, okay, I'll do whatever I can do. Even so, I have to try and speak with him. There might be some kind of explanation for why he decided to experiment on Furies. Back at Fushimi Inari, I saw Kaoru standing there beside him. Perhaps if we speak privately, he might let me in on whatever convinced him to do this in the first place.
I don't know how to put this. You're a softie, kid.
But you like it.
But I agree with that sentiment. If a father and his child were pitted against one another after years of separation, well, that'd be a tragedy if I ever saw one.
Then Ryouma turned his head upward, gazing at the patchwork of stars glimmering above us.
My hope's that Nakaoka's willing to have a cordial conversation, man to man. But he's stubborn. I know how much of a pain in the ass it is to get him out of these moods.
Ryouma. Silence fell between us once again. A breeze whistled coolly through the pines.
Hey, Chizuru. Mind if I borrow your lap?
Borrow my lap? What do you mean?
What? You never lent your lap to a man before? Ah, I guess you haven't. You masqueraded as a man in the Shinsengumi headquarters, huh? Besides, a girl like you never fell in love with anyone in Edo.
That's not true! Did too!
Oh, so you have then. What kind of man was he?
Well... He caught me in a bold lie, and for a brief moment I had thought she might have been referring to Hachiro, but nope, she forgot about him. Back in Edo, I could likely count the number of men with whom I had conversed on 2 hands.
Stop being so defensive. I'm not mocking you. So, that makes me the first then, right? Gotta make sure not to let any other man do this then.
Hey! Once Ryouma entered a cocky, self-assured state of mind, there could be no stopping him. He got low to the ground, resting his head comfortably against my lap. I think, too, when he's like, can I borrow your lap? I'm like, for what? As a pillow, apparently. What a guy. Ryouma? It was a threshold I had never before crossed with a man, and all of my hair stood up. My legs began to lock, tense by the prospect of such an unfamiliar experience. Instead of answering, he smirked, taking pleasure as our eyes met each other.
Nothing to get flustered over. I'm not violating you.
That is a matter of perspective, my friend. A mischievous laugh eked from Ryouma's mouth. Ugh! He spun my emotions like thread around his finger and loved every minute of it. Reflections of starlight glowed in his joyful eyes, which sparked enough on their own.
Oh, stars sure are gorgeous. If I had died back then I never would have seen a marvelous sight like this.
Just then his eyes shifted, sunken by a wistful thought as he pursed his lips. If offered the chance, I believe he would have hovered into the sky to be swallowed amongst the stars.
Everything up there makes all the stuff down here in Tosa, Edo, everything, seems so small. Borders don't exist up there. The things we fight over, like honor and pride, are nothing, just a whole lot of dust.
With Ryouma's words, my mind was thrust back into the chaos of the Battle of Toba Fushimi and the gruesome sight of what we'd seen in Hakone. It was true. In the grand scheme of things, men risked their lives for hollow pursuits.
Oh, sorry. I'm not slating the Shinsengumi specifically.
Relaxes. I know. I had never thought to think less of the Shinsengumi for finding honor in their swords over diplomacy, but why were they so dedicated to fighting? Weren't there other ways to find meaning? The question had crossed my mind too. As I became entranced by philosophical musings, Ryouma suddenly muttered,
You know, you're a special lady.
What? What the? Where did that come from? The suddenness of his comment made my heart skip a beat, and I tried to keep from blushing. Was this another of his attempts to get a rise out of me? There was a hint of sweetness in his words that convinced me otherwise, and he continued.
Just speaking my mind. Few folks out there are willing to hear the opinions of others who may disagree with them. Instead, they focus on sitting on their high horses and shut out anyone else from opening up their worldview. Imagine living the rest of your life without ever letting someone change your mind.
Yeah. I see. From what I understood, Ryouma was a thread tethered to several prestigious figures. It flattered me to receive the honor of his compliment from a man of his stature. For him to describe me as a special lady was all I could ask for, and I replayed the moment in my mind for a few minutes. On the other hand, I began to ponder. If Ryouma was as clever as he seemed, and was truly a visionary for our time, it must have been so frustrating for him to communicate his grievances with those who, as he put it, refused to consider other perspectives. Ryouma. So in the event that you could, in fact, convince Nakaoka, what would you do from there? His face sank into a forlorn expression as he gave my question some thought. Just then, the moment was ruined. Our placid silence was shattered by the echo of gunshots from below our peaceful knoll.
What the hell was that?
I think it came from somewhere near the Seki show.
Ah! Who are you guys? What's your business here?
Panicked voices rang from out of the dimly lit Seki show, preceding a round of hurried gunshots.
Huh? Bullets aren't stopping them! This is unheard of!
Ryouma and I immediately got to our feet. If bullets were doing nothing to deter these intruders from entering, then it meant...
Got a funny feeling that those intruders weren't just hoping to pay the guards a friendly visit. Sounds like trouble.
Lock and load. Ryouma whipped his pistol from its holster.
This distraction might be what we need to sneak down there. We can't let this opportunity go.
I'll go with you. My father might be down there too. Ryouma bit his lip, deliberating over whether or not to let me accompany him.
Fine. But don't separate from me.
I am well aware.
It's dark out, so watch your step. Any slips and we'll be goners.
Okay. Definitely advice needed for Chizuru. Scattered pebbles rolled beside our scurrying feet as we descended down the narrow trail. A bloody melee was erupting in front of us.
What are you people? Why won't you die?
It terrified me, and it became clearer that none of these soldiers were prepared to fight the Furies. Waves of bullets were fired in a frenzy, but it was futile, as most of the wanton bullets landed against tree trunks instead of their targets.
Gah!
The Furies, however, had no difficulty seeing in the darkness, massacring their enemies in cold blood. I partly covered my eyes at what happened next.
Blood. Blood. Blood!
Oh, I forgot about this part. The Furies repeatedly impaled their fallen victims, gleaming maniacally as they became drenched in blood.
Blood. The scent of blood. A feast for us to drink!
One by one, the entranced Furies began to drink. I moved my hands over my eyes, trying to block the hellish vision from registering. Ryouma! It was something out of a nightmare, and I turned to look back at Ryouma in a sweaty panic.
I don't see Nakaoka or Koto around. Maybe they aren't here, which means...
Ryouma gripped his pistol tightly, taking aim at the ravenous Furies feasting upon the dead.
I'll just get rid of them all!
A deafening crack followed his trigger's pull. Whew.
Ah!
The bullet whizzed through the head of its target, exploding its brain and skull cavity into gruesome bits.
Oi, who's there? Another pair of morsels for us to taste.
Yeah, and I do remember at this part, I'm like, man, we've actually heard the Furies talk more than in any other route, I think, so far. Instead of just like, blood. Their piercing scarlet eyes shined menacingly, honing in our location in a matter of moments. Before I could react, all of the Furies pounced upon Ryouma. Ryouma!
Yeah!
Nice. Ryouma deftly rolled on his shoulder, dodging the advancing Furies before unleashing fire upon them. As I braced myself for death, the strike never came, and I opened to find all of the Furies were dead. Potential bad ending spot for us when we go through. Lo and behold, Ryouma had miraculously killed all of them, with impeccable timing, no less. One Imperial soldier survived, huffing on the ground in a thickening puddle of his own blood.
Steady. Now, I'm not gonna kill you, but I've got some questions that need answers.
Holds gun to head. I'm not gonna kill you, but don't give me a reason to. Ryouma's voice assumed a deep bellow as he pressed the barrel of his pistol against the soldier's temple.
Oh, okay.
First of all, the Furies. You know, the scary bastards from earlier. How much do you know about them?
Not a damn thing. We're just a platoon from the Odawara domain. Just joined the Imperial Army.
But someone ordered you to hide those Furies around here, didn't they?
You referring to a man named Nakaoka?
Aye, that's the one. Where'd he run to?
I think... He said he plans to produce more of those things and head to Edo.
Any idea which route he took?
I heard through the mountain pass, east of here.
Mountain Pass. That'd mean he's going through Kyoto, passing Suwa, then on to Edo, huh? Kofu Castle's through that stretch of land too. And Kofu Castle was
Mentioned in those research notes we found.
maybe that's where they're doing their Fury experiments then. We can't let this slide. Let's go, Chizuru. We gotta hurry to Kofu.
Okay. So, we went to Kofu, traveling into the pit of the northwest to thwart the nefarious energy bubbling in the dark corners of our country. Fade to black. And believe it or not, that's the end of chapter 1. Which was very short. I remember musing, well, I guess we don't have any other guys to talk to except Ryouma, so maybe that's why it's so quick. I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be a fast route at this rate. I also just realized I can't remember if there was any encyclopedia entries that happened during this. If there was, I'm sorry. I don't remember which ones they were. I can't find them again, I don't think. Yeah, I had already got rid of them all. Apologies about that as well. Okay, so we're also 50% in bloom at the end of chapter 1, so that's a good sign. March 1868. Our pursuit to find Father and Nakaoka, leading the charge against the Furies, had brought us to Kofu. However... moving on. Isn't this a familiar sight? By the time of our arrival, the battle was in full swing, scored by the chaotic bombast of artillery. Our worst fears were realized as Kofu Castle had already been seized by the Imperial Army.
It's only a matter of time before the battle is settled.
Just as Ryouma predicted. Shogunate forces had barely touched enemy lines with their faulty cannon fire and outdated rifles. Shades of the devastation I'd seen in the Battle of Toba-Fushimi came to mind, much to my dismay.
Hey, Chizuru. Those boys over there are Shinsengumi, aren't they?
Let's see who they are. Although I hadn't recognized their new uniforms or new hairstyles. Scattered amongst the battlefield was a slew of familiar faces. Upon noticing me, all of them lit up at once. Sano!
Hey! You there! Chizuru, is that you?
Harada! Ah, Nomura. So happy to see you alive.
Oh my goodness, Miss Yukimura, you're alive? We were so worried about you.
Oh my gosh, Nomura! They sprinted eagerly towards us as we walked to the edge of their encampment, but as soon as they caught sight of whom I had been traveling with, they stopped dead in their tracks.
Sakamoto, you bastard! Where the hell have you been all this time? We heard you'd become a fury, but you're here under the sunlight without issue. What the hell is going on?
Both Nagakura and Harada shot seething glares at Sakamoto, inspecting him from head to toe.
Calm down, boys. Now's no time to focus on me, is it? The hell did you say?
Everyone, please hear Ryouma out. The Tosa domain have control of furies that can move freely under sunlight. If the battle continues like this, then all of you will...
What? Nomura, alert Kondo. Whether or not Sakamoto could be trusted remains to be seen, but...
Harada cut himself short, motioning with his chin toward me before finishing his sentence.
For now, I know she wouldn't lie to us. Okay, I will.
They trust her. So sweet. With that, Nomura dashed away from us. Moments later, he returned with Kondo to initiate a meeting.
You're asking me to retreat? Our vanguard has traveled a very great distance under direct orders of the Okami. Names and titles aren't gonna save us here. We needed to retreat hours ago. I agree with Shinpachi. Too many of our men had fled from our ranks before we even set foot on this scorched field. If furies capable of fighting in sunlight are thrown into the mix, we'll be slaughtered out there. Perhaps, but if we return to Edo empty-handed, then how do you propose we face the Bakushin? Are you serious? What's more important to you? Saving face, or the lives of your men?
Each of the Shinsengumi men took turns attempting to convince Kondo, but his brow remained furrowed. It was a tense conversation, punctuated by horrific cries of pain echoing in the distance. Just then...
You. Kondo, was it? Mind if I speak my piece? And you are... Sakamoto, the Ronin from Tosa, yes? What is it then? Sure. I could hazard a guess as to what might be running through the Bakushin's mind at this point. But staying on this sinking ship won't give you much to march home and boast about. A smart guy like you can see that, can't you? Doesn't even seem like any of the Shinsengumi's furies are here either. What have you got? A bunch of scared men. Believe me, they don't stand a chance against Nakaoka's furies. My advice is to order the retreat as soon as possible. At this rate, the only way your men are getting home is with their heads on a pike. Watch your mouth, you rat! How dare you suggest such a thing? Hey, I'm not the enemy here. Nothing personal from me, just trying to help you.
Kondo's biting response was enough to ruffle Ryouma's feathers, who backed up slowly. Hey, it's our old boo!
Chief, we must prepare our men to retreat at once. Our men stationed over yonder have fallen back. It's only a matter of time until we are swarmed with enemy soldiers. What? If you plan on taking charge, now's the time. The lives of your men are in your hands, aren't they?
Frustration formed lines of worry on Kondo's face as he bit into his lips. With a clenched fist, he said,
Send orders for the retreat. Everyone fall back. Man your divisions! Alright, boys, we're out of here! Leave the rear unit to me! Chizuru, what are you going to do from now? Will you go back to Edo with us?
Nagakura's question swirled in my mind for a moment, and I glanced back at Ryouma.
Go on, and head back to Edo. My place is here. Someone's gotta handle these furies after all.
Then I should stay with you!
No, I'm fine on my own. If you stay, you might get sucked in, and who knows what'll happen to you.
What? After coming all the way from Kyoto to reach this destination, he planned on turning me away. What if this proved to be the last time I ever saw him? Fear gripped my heart, and I tried to fight back tears.
Don't fret, kid. As soon as I clean up the mess of furies here, I'll be right behind you. Trust me.
The swagger in his eyes, genuine or not, was playing its part to calm me down, and I nodded. Okay. Promise me you'll come back to me, okay?
Will do. A true gentleman keeps his promise to his lady. Alright, Soma. Escort her back to Edo safely. Understood, sir. Miss Yukimura, this way.
Okay. As Soma beckoned me to follow him out, I peered once more over my shoulder at Ryouma. His usual grin, stretched from ear to ear, caused my heart to flutter, and I sprinted away with Soma. Please, don't let this be our last goodbye. I recited this prayer repeatedly as I traversed the brutal terrain with Soma down the slippery trail. Good old Soma taking care of his Miss Yukimura. At long last, we had made safe passage to Edo. Our lodgings were an old mansion owned by the city's Hatamoto, which temporarily served as the Shinsengumi's new headquarters, but... I see. So Okita is...
Yeah. Dr. Matsumoto was saying that he most likely cannot wield his sword anymore, so for now he's resting somewhere in Edo. But I know for certain that Okita wanted so badly to travel with us to Kofu.
Nomura, ever the kind-hearted soul, took the time to brief me on the goings-on of the Shinsengumi. Ever since we returned to Edo, Hijikata had been traveling to shogunate offices to meet with retainers to negotiate a bid to retaliate for Toba Fushimi. It was only recently that the proposal to stage a military siege in Kofu was approved. The shogunate's reluctance to back them was painfully vindicated, as Nomura had informed me. Just as I began to contemplate a series of troubling thoughts, a voice called from outside the mansion.
Shinsengumi's got themselves a new base, huh? You know, a sign out front would have been real helpful. These large estates are such a pain in the ass.
That voice! We know who that is. I could barely contain myself as I recognized his gentle tenor, and I dashed for the entrance gate. Ryouma! Oh goodness, you're safe!
Oi, Chizuru. Sorry for making you wait.
I'm glad to see you safe. So how was it? What happened afterwards in Kofu?
Sadly, neither Nakaoka nor Kodo could be found, but I handled all of those furies without breaking too much of a sweat.
I see. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed by the lack of progress on his part, but... outweighing my disappointment was relief, and I basked in Ryouma's warm presence gleefully.
So, is Hijikata here? I want to talk to him.
Hijikata? I think he's in his room. Please, follow me. I'll take you to him.
Great. Much appreciated.
I escorted Ryouma to Hijikata's room, bowing my head as I left him to walk toward the kitchen. When I returned to Hijikata's room with a tray of tea and snacks, I was startled by what sounded like an aggressive argument from outside of the door.
You're so goddamn stubborn. You'd think after seeing how the Bakushin do things that you'd turn a new leaf.
What, and be like you? Like hell would I even think of abandoning Sanan or Heisuke? Look at yourself. Your penchant for swapping allegiances whenever convenient makes you nothing more than a shady, fickle bastard.
Hijikata's biting jeer led me to believe that Ryouma would find no support from the Shinsengumi. Yeah, we're not shocked. I was waiting in the hall for the two to finish talking.
Man, he's got a head full of rocks. No, not rocks, steel. The man's a nutcase. How the Bakushin deal with him is beyond me.
Ryouma, how did your discussion with Hijikata go?
No matter what I tell him, he's not gonna budge.
I see. Having the Shinsengumi as allies would have been a much-needed form of reassurance. But convincing them to make a compromise on their ideologies was a long shot, if not impossible. As the two of us stood in silence...
Fine! Sounds like I'm not needed here! I can't fight beside any of you anyway!
Nagakura, Harada, what's going on?
Well, it started out as a discussion with Kondo about how to proceed from here, but things sort of took the wrong turn.
So, are you two leaving the Shinsengumi?
Looks like it. But our mission remains the same. We'll continue to battle the Satsuma and Choshu.
I see. I will miss you guys. These were two of the Shinsengumi's brightest leaders. As the facade of their happiness faded, so too did our hope for the future.
Chizuru, what are you going to do?
Me? Stares at the boy. I carefully peeked over at Ryouma with my peripheral vision, trying not to draw any of his notice. I would have loved to continue joining him on wherever he was planning to go, but would Ryouma find the proposition as appealing as I did?
Normally, I'm not one to harp on the decision that others make, but it's likely for the best that you don't allow Sakamoto to stay here for too long. He's got a recognizable face. Sooner or later, warriors around here will start asking questions.
Harada had a point. Now that his negotiations with Hijikata were through, there was no real reason for Ryouma to stay here. On top of that, considering the circumstances of what had happened in Kofu recently, I expected Ryouma to leave me behind and travel somewhere without so much as a goodbye letter.
No need to worry there. I wasn't planning to stick around here for much longer anyway.
Oh no! What if my instincts were right? I began to blurt out from nervousness, feeling my mouth move before I could think of words. Ryouma!
What's the matter?
What should I say? And I'm like, be forthright, girl. If you'd like, would you care to stay in my home? I'm sure that if you had been planning on staying inside of an inn, your attire would stand out. Parting ways with Ryouma so unceremoniously frightened me, so I desperately came up with some ploy to keep him close to me.
Huh. A little unsure how to take that, honestly.
Huh? I mean, you asked him to move in with you, girl. There it is.
At face value, it kinda sounds like you're coming on to me. Normally, I've got great feelers for this kind of thing, and you didn't seem too ready for the next step.
What? These two very concerned guys are like, ahem.
Are you serious, Chizuru? You plan on letting this little snake into your home? Well, if that's what you've decided, we're in no position to doubt you, but you might want to reconsider that. I can tell you for a fact that you could have your pick of men around the world instead of this cretin.
Oh, Harada. You could have anybody else. No, you guys misunderstand. I didn't mean it in that way. Besides, this isn't the first time that the two of us have been alone. We traveled together during our entire trek here.
Oh yeah, right. Guess our relationship really is ready to progress to the next level, huh?
Can you stop doing that? You're giving off the wrong impression. Well, in any case, I am going to notify Hijikata about our arrangement, okay?
Alright, thanks.
She's not taking no for an answer.
Well, you take care, Chizuru. We may never see each other again. Hey, Shin, don't you think saying goodbye is depressing enough without your dramatics? Oh shit, my bad. Guess I was getting a little sentimental, huh? Later. If luck is on our side, let's see each other again.
Okay. Take care, you two. Thus, two of the Shinsengumis had left their post, and I watched them walk toward the horizon. Afterwards, I rushed to Hijikata's room to ask for his permission in order to travel to my childhood home.